Shocking truth, what Isaiah foretold about Israel and Iran will haunt you forever. The evening air was thick with an electric tension as people gathered in the town square, each face lit with a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. The old man in the corner, gray-haired and stooped, whispered tales of prophecy that sent shivers down spines. He claimed to have cracked the code of Isaiah, a scroll long thought lost, foretelling doom in vivid detail. The sun dipped low, casting haunting shadows, while the man recounted warnings of fire raining down upon cities and nations in a bloodied struggle. Everyone listened closely, fear gripping their hearts. Could it really be that the ancient words of a prophet were rising from the ashes of obscurity? As the night deepened, whispers floated through the crowd. Did you hear about the flames in Jerusalem? Someone had spoken of a child found clutching a torn page, the only remnant of a dark prophecy. Others murmured about the strange light flickering over Iran, the kind of eerie glow that made the hair on their necks stand up. It was all too surreal, a perfect storm brewing, with historic grudges reigniting. The atmosphere crackled with uncertainty. Families clutched each other, eyes darting to the darkening sky, anxious for what might happen next. The old man's voice dropped to a near whisper, growing ominous as he said, "The final signs are at hand." People leaned in closer, the tension palpable. Were they merely tales meant to spook, or did these murmurs drive deeper, echoing through the annals of time? Each word hummed like a noose, threatening to choke the hope from their chests. Children fidgeted, unable to comprehend the weight of ancient warnings juxtaposed against their innocent laughter. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled ominously, an echo of the declarations that loomed over them. Judgment was coming. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As tension hung in the air, the whispering crowd suddenly fell silent, almost reverently. A stunning woman appeared at the edge of the square, dressed all in white, hair flowing like silk. Her eyes sparkled with a fierce light, and she lingered in the shadows, calling forth even more questions. Was she an angel or a messenger of doom? The old man gasped. It said the chosen will appear when the prophecy begins to unfold. The moment held, thick with anticipation, and Liz's hand trembled at her side as she glanced toward the woman. Hope flickered in her heart, but dread seeped through her veins. The echoes of ancient prophecies loomed ever closer, and one thought sliced through the crowd's collective consciousness: was this truly the beginning of the end? Would they witness the horrors foretold, or could they still find a way to reshape their destiny? Everything seemed frozen as the woman in white took a step forward. The crowd held its breath, eyes wide, hearts pounding. Was she here to deliver salvation or the final blow? Murmurs broke the silence, a mix of fear and curiosity spilling from trembling lips. Who are you? Someone shouted, voice cracking, desperation laden in the tone. The woman's gaze swept over the crowd, resting on Liz. Just for a moment, a flicker of recognition passed between them. Liz felt a pulse of warmth in that gaze, but it was accompanied by an icy chill that shot down her spine. The thrumming tension vibrated in the air, as if the world itself anticipated the answer. With an ethereal calm, the woman spoke, her voice smooth yet resonating with a power that licked under the skin. I am the whisper of the past and the harbinger of your future. These prophecies you fear, they are not just stories, but a reflection of choices yet to be made. The old man murmured something inaudible, his fingers clutching the edge of a table. The crowd leaned in closer, as if her words were a spell binding them in place. What choices? A man demanded. His bravado broke in his eyes as he glanced nervously toward the shadows of the night creeping ever closer. What are we supposed to do? The woman turned slightly, the moonlight illuminating her face, casting an almost halo-like glow around her. The path forward is fraught with peril, she said, voice sinking lower, but it is not a path set in stone. You must find unity where division thrives. Only then can the flames of destruction be quenched. Fear throbbed in the square. People exchanged glances, uncertainty weaving its way through their hearts. Liz felt a knot tighten within her. The prophecy was alive and breathing, pressing against the fragile structure of their lives. Yet, within that weighty fear, a flicker of hope ignited. Could unity truly reshape destiny? Just then, a loud clap of thunder echoed through the crowd, shaking the ground beneath. The sky rumbled, dark clouds swirling ominously overhead, as if laughing at their feeble existence. Gasps filled the square, fear morphing into panic. Liz instinctively took a step back, clutching her younger brother's hand tightly. "Run!" someone screamed, breaking through the thick air of prophecy and dread. The crowd erupted into chaos, people stumbling over one another, the heels of boots slapping against the cobblestones, echoing fear in each frantic footfall. The woman remained calm, standing alone against the tide of terror. "You cannot escape what must unfold," she shouted, her voice rising above the panicked cries. "You must confront it. You must choose." Liz hesitated, torn between the instinct to flee and the need to understand. She turned back to the woman, the connection pulling her in. There was something she needed to know. As she pushed through the throng, heart racing, the world around her faded into the background. What was the choice that could shift the balance? Or was it too late? Suddenly, an explosion lit up the sky behind her, a fiery eruption streaking through the clouds. The crowd froze, collective horror marking their faces, and in that chilling moment, Liz felt an unyielding urge to confront the woman once more. But when she turned, the strange woman was gone, evaporating into the dark like a morning mist. What had just happened? Had she truly been here to save them, or had the very prophecy warned of doom? The weight of it all crashed down on her, a whirlwind of uncertainty, and Liz's breath quickened. The choice loomed ahead of her, but what if it was one she could never truly embrace? With the night sky ablaze, an urgent thought echoed in her mind: was salvation only a mirage, or the impending doom waiting to ensnare them all? And as questions threatened to spiral, Liz felt the first icy droplets of rain start to fall. A storm was coming, but would it cleanse or consume? The rain began to fall in heavy sheets, soaking the cobblestones and turning the ground into a slippery, turbulent sea of chaos. Lightning cracked overhead, illuminating the frantic faces of neighbors and friends as they poured down the streets, seeking any form of shelter and safety. Liz's heart raced, her pulse thumping loud in her ears. Meanwhile, her brother clutched her leg, eyes wide with fear, the only anchor in this surging tide of terror. "Where do we go?" he cried, voice barely rising above the din of chaos. Panic was contagious, it coursed through the crowd, infecting each person with despair. "We can't just," Liz started to say, before another explosion boomed in the distance, shaking her to her core. The ground trembled beneath her feet. Firelight flickered in the sky, an ominous warning and a beacon of escalating doom. "Liz!" A woman desperately pushed through the crowd, eyes frantic and wild. It was Melissa, one of the town's few voices of reason. "We need to regroup. The old town hall is secure." For some reason, those words struck a chord within her. A glimmer of hope flickered against the rising tide of fear. Liz nodded, gripping her brother's hand tight. "This way. To the hall." Together, they navigated the frantic throng, adrenaline rushing as they ducked under flailing arms and bodies stumbling in confusion. Outside, the wind howled, carrying the scent of impending rain-soaked destruction, amplifying chaos. Each flash of lightning splashed vivid images across their faces, looks of terror, disbelief, and frantic determination. Finally, the old town hall loomed ahead, its solid structure standing against the gale. But it was eerily dark, its windows offering no reassurance, like hollow eyes staring greedily into the storm. As they pushed through the door, Liz felt a weight pressing down on her. The air was thick with unspoken words, and the scent of sweat and fear filled the cramped space. It felt like everyone had gathered there, searching for answers, but also projecting their desperate hopes onto one another. "Liz! Is it just the storm?" Melissa gasped, looking around, concern etching lines on her face. "Or is this about more than just weather?" Before Liz could respond, the door swung wide, and an elderly man staggered inside, his hair disheveled and eyes wide like a hunted animal. "They're coming!" he shouted, breathless and trembling. "The flames, we can't outrun them." Liz felt the panic rising again, squeezing her heart. The woman's words hung heavy in her mind, choices yet to be made. If the flames of destruction were coming, what choice remained? A whisper spread through the crowd. What did she mean by unity? A voice challenged from the back. How do we face an enemy we can't see? The room buzzed with anxiety, a dense layer of fear settling over them like a shroud. Liz struggled to breathe, her own thoughts racing. Unity? How could she ever unite them? With every passing moment, she felt the weight of their fears resting on her shoulders. Just then, the lights flickered, then went out, plunging the town hall into darkness, save for the intermittent flashes of lightning. Cries erupted again, panic igniting like gasoline. Stay calm! Liz shouted, raising her voice above the chaos. Stay together. We'll find a way, I promise. Icy fingers of doubt crept into her mind. Would they believe her? Or would her words only add to their fear? In that dim light, fear fueled desperation. What was she really promising? With the storm raging outside, Liz stood amidst the darkness, her heart pounding. Was she the answer they needed, or just another lost voice in the storm? And then, piercing through the noise, the voice of the woman echoed back in her mind, only then can the flames of destruction be quenched. What if unity was not just a concept? What if it was a battle cry against the tides of despair? Outside, the storm swelled, and Liz's breath hitched as an ice-cold realization washed over her. It was not just about survival anymore. It was about changing the course of fate. But how would she begin? Would the very darkness surround her extinguish any chance before it could even ignite? The next rumble of thunder shook the ground again, sending a chilling realization coursing through her. Choices would have to be made. And soon. The darkness seemed to pulse with a life of its own, each crash of thunder drawing closer, echoing like footsteps pressing into the ground. Liz could feel every breath of the crowd, a collective gasp, a shared fear spinning through them. Her brother's grip tightened. What if they find us? He whispered, face pale and dampened by fear. She could feel a lump forming in her throat, but she forced down her own fear and shot him a brave smile. They won't find us, I promise. Just stay close. In the suffocating shadows, Liz searched for Melissa, desperate for some kind of strength. The intermittent flashes of lightning illuminated the gathered faces, the wide eyes of children and the frantic expressions of mothers, the men standing guard as if they could fend off whatever chaos was surely coming. We have to do something. A voice thundered from the shadows, a young man she recognized as Derek. Sitting here waiting is not an option. Shouldn't we fortify the doors? Prepare? What can we even do? A woman cried out, her voice tinged with despair. I don't know, but if the flames are coming, we can't just sit back. Derek insisted, his voice growing more urgent with each word. We need to be prepared to fight back. Liz felt a swell of courage ripple through her. Fight back. Wasn't that what Melissa had meant by unity? Yes, right. She called out, her voice cutting through the crowd's murmur. We can't just hide here. We need to stand together. We need to confront what's coming. A ripple of uncertainty spread amongst the group. Derek's eyes caught Liz's. What do you suggest? He asked, sincerity shining through the chaos. Her mind raced. We need to organize. Everyone has strengths, skills. If we combine those, we can defend this place. But the warmth of her growing resolve was met with a gust of cold wind as doubts rushed back into the room. And just how do we do that? The woman's voice rose again, filled with skepticism. Start with what we have. Liz pointed, adrenaline coursing through her. We can block the windows, gather anything that can protect the doors. Everyone can help. The murmurs turned into half-hearted nods and whispers as people began to shuffle. But Liz knew it wasn't enough. Conviction sparked inside her. Together, we can force the darkness back. We're stronger as one. Doubt hung like a thick curtain, but a flicker of belief sparked in Liz's heart. Lightning illuminated her surroundings, and in that moment, she saw it, the doubt etched in the faces, but also the glimmer of hope buried beneath despair. It was a challenge, a chance to choose the path they wanted to walk down together. Suddenly, the lights flickered back to life, casting long shadows across worn faces. In that moment, she realized what they all needed. We need to start right now. Unity is our shield. Who's with me? One by one, hesitant but determined, they stepped forward, each face reflecting a mix of fear and bravery. Liz felt her heart swell. This was the first step. They had chosen to fight. But just as momentum started to build, a deafening crash erupted from beyond the doors, cutting through the air. Panic surged again, voices ignited in chaos. "They're here!" someone screamed. The crowd surged backward, pressing against the walls, uncertainty clawing at their throats. Liz's heart raced as she stepped forward, her confidence faltering, but she knew she had to hold strong. "We can do this!" she shouted. "Stay together!" But deep down, she felt the weight of impending doom looming closer. The crash sounded again, louder this time, the echoes trailing like ominous shadows. What awaited them beyond those doors? And just as the darkness began to swirl, Liz dug deep, readying herself to face whatever was to come. Could their newfound unity stand against the approaching threat? Would they find the strength to protect their fragile light in the oncoming storm? The crash reverberated in Liz's chest, a bone-deep tremor that set her heart racing. It was a sound that demanded action, but no one was moving. They huddled together, fear painting their faces in stark relief against the flickering light. Shadows danced wildly as Liz clenched her fists, struggling against the tightness in her throat. "Everyone!" she yelled, trying to drown out the panic rising among them. "We need to stand together. Now!" Derek joined her side, his features set with determination. "Liz is right. We can't let fear control us. Let us move." The group shuffled reluctantly, uncertainty clinging to them like an oppressive fog. Just then, another thunderous crash split the air, followed by the sound of wood splintering. Instinctively, Liz took a step back. "Keep pushing forward," she shouted, her voice barely reaching the edges of the growing chaos. With urgency, they began tearing apart furniture. Chairs were upended, tables flipped, the air thick with the pungent smell of dust and old wood. Liz grabbed a heavy piece of wood, clutching it like a weapon, her fingers trembling around the splintered edges. "Is everyone okay?" The group remained oddly quiet, a mixture of resolve and fear tightening the atmosphere further. A young girl whimpered, hiding behind her mother, and Liz's heart broke at the sight. But she had to focus. "We're going to get through this," she exclaimed, her voice steady even as the tempest outside seemed to roar louder. With one last crash, the doors shuddered violently. Liz's eyes darted to the hinges, where shadows threatened to burst through. "Form a line," she commanded, voice cutting through the frantic whispers. "If they break in, we need to be ready." As they aligned themselves against the door, a flicker of light shone through the cracks, and with it, an unsettling whisper echoed in the air. Liz leaned in closer, trying to catch the words that hung just out of reach. It was like a haunting melody teasing the edges of her mind. "Something ancient, something foreboding. Do you hear that?" a man murmured beside her, wide-eyed. "I hear it," Liz replied, feeling the icy claw of fear grip her spine. "We need to focus." Without warning, the door cracked open, yielding to something unseen. The hinges creaked like bones straining under pressure, and in that moment, they could feel it, the anticipation, the dread creeping closer. Silhouetted figures loomed in the dim light, their shapes shifting like smoke. Liz glimpsed eyes glinting with malice, peering through the split. Then, an uncanny voice licked the air, smooth and sinister. "You thought you could hide? This is only the beginning." The group recoiled, terror flooding their faces. Liz's heart sank. "We can't let fear paralyze us," she shouted over the rising chaos. "Together!" The call for unity felt weak now, drowning in the dark promise of what lurked beyond. Derek's hand grasped her shoulder. "What if it's not just one of them?" he whispered, voice trembling. "What if there are more?" Churning inside her was the burgeoning fear of that very truth. What if this was a trap? What if their unity was about to be tested in the most horrific way imaginable? Suddenly, the door flung open with a bone-rattling crash, and the figures burst through like a flood, dark and menacing. Shouts filled the air as Liz held her breath, ready to face the impossible. In that chilling moment, every face in the crowd painted a mosaic of dread, and Liz felt the weight of their hope pressing against her. Before they could react, shadows surged forth, swallowing the blinding light behind them. Just as the chaos escalated, an unearthly howl pierced through the storm, electrifying the air, and then silence. What did that silence herald? Was it the calm before an inevitable storm, or had they just crossed into a whole new nightmare? The crowd held on to the moment, suspended and vulnerable. What came next would either define their courage or consume them whole. The stillness was suffocating, each breath painted with a sense of dread that hung heavy in the air. Liz's heart raced and she could barely process the shift. It was as if time had stretched beyond reality, leaving them stranded in a surreal limbo. "Stay close," Liz shouted, her voice slicing through the oppressive quiet. She dared to inch forward, gripping the piece of wood tighter, feeling splinters dig into her palms. The shadows moved, flickering at the edges of her vision, teasing her with half-formed shapes that twisted the light. Derek peered into the darkness, his forehead creased with worry. What just happened? His voice trembled, echoing her own dread. Did they leave? The question crackled in the air. Liz strained to listen, her heart pounding. Perhaps they had been deceived by the sudden hush, a lull designed to lure them into a false sense of safety. A chilling laugh rippled through the silence, slithering like smoke around them. "Oh, they've not gone far." The voice was low and menacing, coated with a harmony that sent shivers skittering down Liz's spine. "You still have so much to understand." Something flickered at the edges of the room. Was it a shadow? Or something else? Liz's instincts screamed at her to run, but her legs felt woefully heavy. The crowd pressed closer together, their collective fear forming a palpable bond. "Who are you?" Liz asked, summoning courage that felt like a thin thread. "What do you want from us?" But the shadows didn't answer. Instead, they twisted and writhed, drawing in closer. Another wave of unsettling laughter filled the room, almost melodic yet laced with malice. "They couldn't just stand by." That realization struck Liz like a lightning bolt. "We need to find a way out," she urged, scanning the room. The only exit appeared to be the door, now strewn with fragments of what had once been sturdy wood. It was a battlefield made from desperation and dread. Just as she turned to rally the group, something lunged out of the shadows, a figure, tall and cloaked, its face obscured by darkness. A chill swept through the room as it stepped forward, the others recoiling from the entity's very presence. "Time is running out and your fates are chosen," it whispered, voice dripping with foreboding. "You think hiding will save you?" "I am everywhere, and I know your secrets, Liz." Her breath caught. How did it know her name? It was a power play that made her insides twist. You could hear a pin drop as the group's attention locked onto her, their fear multiplying tenfold. "What do you want from me?" she snapped, trying to hold her ground. The fear constricted like a vice, and she felt the heat of its intensity wash over her. The figure chuckled again. "Only the truth will set you free." In an instant, it surged closer, hands outstretched as if to grasp her. Liz's instincts kicked in. "Run!" she screamed, breaking the trance that held them. The crowd surged forward, racing toward the door, but she found herself rooted to the spot, battling against another wave of despair that brushed by like a chilling wind. Then, from the back, a desperate scream pierced through the chaos. "It's here!" someone shouted, and panic erupted like a thunderclap. Liz turned, her heart in her throat. Shadows poured into the room from every angle, unfurling like a nightmare realized. The line between safety and peril was drawn, and she could feel the threat close enough to swallow them whole. "Derek!" she cried, her voice lost amid the suffocating noise, desperation clawing at her throat. And just like that, the shadows began to close in, enveloping one of their own. What hope remained in the blinding darkness? Would they unravel the truth before enveloped by their very fears? The answers awaited them if they could find a way to escape, or if escape was still an option. The chaos swelled. Liz's heart pounded louder than the screams that erupted around her. It felt like the room was collapsing inward, the shadows devouring sound and light. She fought to move, but her feet stayed glued to the floor, each second stretching thin like a taut wire ready to snap. "Derek, we can't leave him," she yelled, searching the sea of faces swimming in terror. But it was chaos, people jostling, pushing, scrambling for safety. The dark figure moved with an unnatural grace, weaving through the throng, darkness swirling around it as if it possessed a mind of its own. Suddenly, a frightened voice called out, "We can't just abandon him." "What about shut up? We have to go." Someone else screamed back, panic spilling into every word like toxins. Derek's eyes darted across the room, searching desperately for his friend, lost to the shadows. Liz felt her throat tighten as another wave of fear lapped at them. "Get to the door. We have to get out," she shouted, her voice choked. The cloaked figure paused, just for a moment, and Liz could feel its focus land on her like a spotlight. "Your friend is not what you think. To understand, you must embrace the darkness," it hissed. "What do you mean?" She gripped the wood tighter, the heat of frustration igniting her nerves. "He's just scared. We all are." A hollow laugh resonated through the room, and threads of dread snaked around her heart. "You may find that the greatest fears lie not in the shadows, but within your trust." The darkness shifted, revealing a flicker of movement. One of their own was weaving through the haze, frantically calling for help. "Liz! I can't see." Derek's friend's voice cracked, desperation bubbling to the surface. Suddenly, the figures closing in on them lunged forward, their arms stretching through the black like grotesque branches. Liz screamed as one hand grazed her arm, cold and clammy, sending icy shockwaves through her skin. It felt as if it was siphoning her warmth, wrapping around her like ice. She recoiled, her instincts screaming at her to run, but the oppressive presence held her fast. Derek broke free from the crowd, a determined look on his face. "Liz! We have to go now." That snapped Liz out of her stupor. She surged forward, adrenaline igniting every nerve. "Get her!" she shouted to Derek, pointing towards the encroaching shadows, but her words were lost in the tumult. They were out of time. Together, they pushed against the tide of fear, darting toward the door. Just then, the figure lunged also, its voice a whip-crack echoing in the dimness. "I will see you again, Liz. Know your fears, they will consume you." They reached the door, barely. The remains of its structure weren't much, a feeble barricade against the swarm of darkness. "Push. It won't hold," Derek urged, ramming his shoulder against the splintered frame. The door creaked and splintered as they shoved through, spilling into the cold night air. But Liz hesitated at the threshold, her breath hitching in her throat. She could sense an unseen force, like a few lingering fingers of the ancient shadows attempting to hold onto them. "There's not much time." Derek's voice brought her back, the urgency clear in his tone. "Wait," she shouted, glancing back. Was the figure still there, cloaked in darkness? Had it followed them? Fearful uncertainty gnawed at her. They were out, but were they truly safe? With one final shuddering breath, Liz slammed the door behind her, the chill of the outside world contrasting with the heat of her terror. The concrete beneath her feet felt solid, but she knew it would take more than just physical strength to escape this nightmare. "We can't stop. We need to find a place to hide." Derek's eyes darted around as they fled, each step echoing an urgent pulse within her chest, but deep down, the weight of the figure's words echoed ominously. "The truth will set you free." What truth? It haunted her, a spectral whisper fluttering at the edges of her mind. They had escaped for now. But the shadows remained, lurking in her thoughts. What awaited them in the darkness? And who would fall victim next? The frigid air engulfed them as they stumbled into the night. Liz felt the adrenaline coursing through her veins, but it was a double-edged sword, igniting her senses while amplifying her dread. The darkness wasn't just confined to their escape, it felt like it loomed behind every corner, every shadow, waiting for an opportunity to grab hold of them again. "Where do we go?" Derek asked, his voice filled with urgency. They raced past flickering streetlights, the shadows deepening with every step they took. Liz glanced around, the buildings towering like sentinels, casting long, eerie shadows that danced in the dim light. "There! The alley! We can hide there, at least for a moment." She pointed to a narrow passage between two brick walls, a temporary sanctuary from the chaos, the darkness that threatened to swallow them once more. They ducked into the alley, the muffled sounds of terror fading slightly behind them, but not completely. The silence felt wrong, as if the whole world was holding its breath, waiting. Liz pressed her back against the cold wall, her heart thumping in her chest like a war drum. Do you think it followed us? Derek's eyes were wide, glistening with fear. I don't know. Her voice trailed off as she caught herself. The words of the cloaked figure haunted her still. What if it can find us anywhere? What if our fear gives it power? His brow furrowed, and in the scarce light, she saw him wrestling with his thoughts. We need to confront this thing. I can't just run forever. Just then, Liz's phone buzzed in her pocket, making her jump. She fished it out, her fingers trembling. It was a text from Isaiah, a longtime friend known for his strange insights. Meet me at our old spot. The truth is deeper than you think. Trust your instincts. A knot twisted in her stomach. Isaiah knows something, she whispered. Derek leaned in closer. Is he really someone we can trust? We barely made it out alive. Liz's fist tightened around her phone. We don't have time to debate trust right now. He might be able to help us understand what's happening. Before Derek could respond, a chilling wind swept through the alley, sending shivers up their spines. It felt alive, as if it carried remnants of the darkness they had fled. Liz shuddered, the warmth of their previous sanctuary now feeling like a distant memory. Listen, she said, her voice barely a whisper. We can't stay here too long. Whatever's out there will sense our fear. We should go to Isaiah. As they cautiously stepped out of the alley, Liz felt a sudden chill that made her pause. Shadows flickered across the pavement, taunting and twisting. It's here, she murmured, her voice starting to break. We have to run. They started down the street, the chilling sensation of being watched pressing down on their shoulders. With each footfall, the whispers grew louder in Liz's mind. Embrace the darkness took on a new meaning. It crackled with urgency, a reminder that maybe, just maybe, this darkness was something more than just a fear to be outrun. Faster! Derek urged, as they sprinted toward their destination, the shadows dancing behind them. And then, out of nowhere, a figure leaped into the light ahead of them, a silhouette outlined against the night. Liz's breath caught in her throat. It was Isaiah, but the light didn't touch him the same way it had touched the world around them. He stood still, face shrouded in dread, eyes dark as night, full of secrets to unravel. Now it begins, he said, and Liz felt the weight of those words settle like a stone in her stomach. What truth awaited them? And were they prepared to face the darkness rising again? Isaiah stood there, the night wrapping around him like a shroud, the air thick with tension. Liz felt her heart pound louder, drowning out the world around them. Isaiah! Derek called, his voice strained. What do you know? We need to get out of here. But Isaiah remained still, gazing ahead with an intensity that made Liz shiver. You don't understand, this goes deeper than you think. The darkness isn't just an enemy, it has roots. He paused, glancing around as if sensing their pursuer lurking nearby. You both need to know the truth. Liz exchanged a worried glance with Derek. What truth? She pressed, her voice unwavering despite her fear. About the old tales, Isaiah replied slowly, his voice low. Legends that have been whispered through generations. Stories of a force awakened by fear. He took a step towards them, urgency lighting his features. It feeds on our dread, our panic. The more terrified we are, the stronger it becomes. Derek clenched his fists. So what do we do then? Just stand here and let it know. Isaiah interrupted, his eyes widening. We fight back, but first, you must understand what you're dealing with. This isn't just a shadow. It's a conduit. There are deeper connections, dark energies tied to the very fabric of this city. He inhaled sharply. And there's a way to seal it away. But you have to trust me. Trust. The word twisted painfully in Liz's throat. How do we seal it? Isaiah looked at her, and for a brief moment, she searched his eyes for hope. But all she found was a storm of unspoken fears. We need to confront it at its source. He pointed toward the edge of the city, where the old factory loomed like a giant silhouette against the sky. That's where you'll find it, the sigil of its power. We can't go there, Derek said, panic bleeding into his voice. It'll sense us. Liz took a deep breath, her mind racing. But if we don't, it will only grow stronger, right? We have to face it head on. Isaiah nodded, the shadows dancing on his face, momentarily illuminating the conflict writhing within him. But there is no guarantee that you two will come back. Once you step into that darkness, it may consume you. Fear threatened to suffocate them both, but Liz's determination surged. We won, let it win. I refuse to let fear dictate my life. Derek's expression mirrored her resolve. We face it together. No backing down. Isaiah's eyes searched theirs, a flicker of understanding igniting in his gaze. If you're set on this course, I will guide you. But you must be prepared for the worst. As they turned toward the looming factory, the chill in the air thickened. Shadows danced wildly, as if entwined with their fears. Liz felt the darkness pulling at her, trying to weave its way into her heart. Stay close, Isaiah said, taking the lead. The three of them ventured forward, the air growing heavier with each step. With every stride, the structure loomed closer, dilapidated walls whispering warnings of evil long trapped within. Liz tightened her fists, heart racing, as doubts flooded her mind. Would they really find the power to fight the darkness, or would it consume them whole? Suddenly, a guttural growl echoed from inside the factory, and Liz froze. The darkness writhed and pulsated, just on the other side of the broken door. The moment of truth neared, and a cold sweat ran down her back. They were about to confront their fears. But what if the darkness was too powerful? What if it knew their secrets, their deepest regrets? And just as Liz opened her mouth to voice her concerns, the factory door creaked open. A shadow slipped out, a shape even darker than night, and she felt its gaze lock onto hers, heavy with unspoken dread. Run, Derek whispered, but it was too late. The darkness surged forward, and Liz's breath caught as she realized they were no longer the hunters, they had become the prey. Time stood still, their fates hanging in the balance, teetering on the edge of something much darker than they could imagine. What would happen to them in the face of such palpable fear? Would they become lost within it, or could they uncover the truth and turn back its tide? With a sudden rush, the shadow lunged, its presence oppressive and charged with an intensity that suffocated the air. Liz's heart raced. Every instinct told her to flee, but the resolve within her ignited like a beacon. We do not fear you, she shouted, voice rising above the dark echo. The figure hesitated, the darkness swirling around it pulsed as if weighing her words, testing their strength. You do not understand, it hissed, weaving closer, an entity of despair and anguish. Liz forced herself to stand firm, recovering the power of her presence. No. You don't know us. We one cower in fear. We face you, and we choose light over darkness. Each word struck like a hammer, a challenge rooted in the unity she had forged among the townsfolk. Isaiah stood beside her, his face grave but steady, and Derek, fueled by the fire of camaraderie, clenched the makeshift weapon tightly. They formed a line, a wall of resistance against the encroaching dread. You think you can change your fate? The shadow replied, voice dripping with mockery. I am the embodiment of your fears, your regrets, the hauntings of your past. You think you can conquer what is already within you? No. It is not about conquering, Derek shouted, adrenaline surging through him. It's about embracing our truth, our choices. Around Liz, memories flooded back, haunting thoughts, whispers of doubt that had kept them from uniting before, pitting neighbor against neighbor. But the weightlessness of those fears began to lift, replaced by a powerful resolve. If they could confront this darkness, they could sever its grasp. She took a deep breath, feeling the connection with her friends infuse her with courage. We are more than our fears. We are a community, and together we stand. No more hiding. The shadow recoiled, flickering under the strength of their voices, as if the warmth of their unity was burning its core. You think strength lies in support? It snarled, retreating, anger rippling through it. You will regret this decision. That flicker of fear in the darkness was their moment. Now! Liz shouted, rallying the group, with Derek and Isaiah echoing her sentiment. They surged forward, breaking through their psychological barriers. Together, they formed a circle, each holding hands, hearts beating as one, pushing against the tide of shadows that sought to engulf them. "What do we do?" Derek shouted over the tumult around them. "Focus on the light," Isaiah urged. "Embrace what you love, remember who you are. Find that spark." As Liz closed her eyes for a brief moment, a cascade of memories rushed through her, laughter shared, hopes whispered, light threading itself through their stories, illuminating her spirit. The warmth of her brother's hand in hers, the faces of neighbors who had become friends, the dreams that danced in their hearts. With each heartbeat, the darkness began to fade, flickers extinguishing under the weight of their unity. The roar of the shadow receded, surrendering to the intense, collective light bearing down on it. They could feel the darkness shrinking back, less of an entity and more of an echo, an ironically fading specter of the fears they had wrestled against for so long. Sensing its retreat, Liz opened her eyes, a surge of certainty rushing through her. "Together. We can do this." Once more, she felt the fire ablaze in her heart, and raising their joined hands, she shouted, "We are one. We choose hope." With that proclamation, a luminescent light radiated from them, spilling outward, chasing the shadows, unraveling the grip of fear. The entity shrieked, twisting in agony as the light enveloped it, untangling doubt and despair, leaving only an echo that dissipated into the ether. A blissful silence followed. The factory stood still, once a prison turned into a sanctuary. Liz blinked, the light glimmering in emotional hues, illuminating their faces, reflecting relief and triumph. Derek pulled her into a tight embrace. "We did it. We actually did it." Isaiah smiled, the heavy weight on his shoulders finally lifting. This was just the beginning. We stirred. Something far deeper than fear. Unfettered light resides in unity. As they stepped outside, the dawn began to break, brightening the sky with warm hues of gold and crimson. The air carried the sweet scent of rain-soaked earth, washing over them as though nature celebrated their victory. Turning back toward the factory, Liz felt gratitude swell within her. They had not just faced the darkness, they had transformed it, shifting the narrative that had held them captive for so long. They learned that fear could only have power over them if they let it. Together, they had rewritten their story without ghostly chains. "Let us go back home," she said softly, smiling at her brother and her friends. "There is so much to build now." As they walked away from the remnants of their turmoil, Liz knew this was a new beginning forged from fear but sculpted in even greater courage and hope. It was a reminder that uncertainty could lead to unity, and in that collective strength, they emerged braver than before. The skies, now blue, promised a future where they would heal and rebuild together. And now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help more people find these stories. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending, because I want to know what you think, and don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything.